It was a quiet day in the market with the SPY trading in a very narrow range. Again, just above the 601 level, trading down here in the after hours. Interesting though, gamma exposure at these higher strikes have really started growing as we bounced off of this 580 level here right before OPEX last Friday. And the move has been pretty fast and furious. Now we're seeing the 605 strike, the 610 strike, and the 615 strike all starting to grow. Now, this has obviously been a level of resistance right around this 605 level, and you can see this is still our upper dealer cluster zone. So this is going to be interesting if we see a continued move up into the 605 level. Will we see this same resistance come into play, or is the gamma exposure at these higher strikes going to be enough to offset that selling pressure that we see come in potentially by dealers above 605. And on the downside, our lower dealer cluster zone has moved up. Earlier at the beginning of the week, it was in this 585 range. So it has moved up now to basically at 598. Just as a side note, not a lot of new information in terms of volume, really tight range. Again, our dealer cluster zones are in a very tight range. And so this is typical for holiday season trading. We may see a slow grind higher over the next few trading sessions, potentially up into the 605 level, as I mentioned, and then we'll have to see what happens after that.
Thanks, Anthony. One point I wanted to make toward the discussion about the boring market. I'm constantly amazed at how even in a boring market, Gamma is able to help us find opportunities on an intraday basis. In our Discord server, we simply pointed out that this morning that while the price action was negative and the futures were actually down and the market opened up lower, we actually had this fairly solid positive gamma on the S&P with the largest gamma cluster at 6050, and we kind of wrote about that. You can see right up here. And sure enough, it took a while. It was kind of a slow, boring march higher, but from the time we posted it, it was almost 30 points. I think we topped out at 60.4975. So we came within a quarter of a point of what Gamma was advertising throughout the morning as the target. So I wanted to look at IWM. We do read your comments in our YouTube videos, and we appreciate the requests and feedback. And one person recently asked us to look at IWM. It's been similar to DIA, almost opposite the NASDAQ and SPY. We had this sideways consolidation until December, and then it started sort of a small cascade downward, bottoming out here on December 20. What I like about the chart is we regained the whole moving average on the 24th, and today we saw some follow through above that, also closing above the lower Keltner channel. And this opens up a potential revisit of 233.93, which is the middle Keltner channel. So we do have negative gamma. We do have large negative gamma clusters at 220 and also at 210. Zero gamma is 232. And this is what I find interesting. That zero gamma level is fairly close to what we just saw on the chart as represented by the middle Keltner channel at 233.90 and change. One thing I've noticed about IWM, if you pay attention to the historical change, you can see that basically gamma peaked out at November 29. That was the top of the gamma picture. So as of now, the trend is back up in the short term for the last couple of days. And we may have a good shot at reaching that zero gamma level before potentially reversing again.
Thanks, Sean. Let's take a look at Bitcoin. Bitcoin trading at 95,800 and change. This is one of our favorite risk on, risk off indicators. You can see the last month, every time we've dipped below 95,000, this has been an interesting support level. Currently, our zero GEX level is right there at 95,000. We had a pretty big bounce higher on Tuesday, and now we've retraced back into this zero GEX level. We're still below the big 100,000 strike, so we need to get above that level before some of these higher strikes come back into play. So our first target is going to be a move above 100K. Beyond that, we are looking at the 110,000 strike. We still think that is a viable target heading into January. We've got GEX growing at this 110 strike. We made an attempt earlier in December to get up there, couldn't quite make it, but this GEX is still sitting there. And now we actually see GEX at the 120,000 strike growing. So there's definite continued interest in a move higher in these higher strikes in Bitcoin. So something to keep watching. It's going to take time, most likely, for all of this to play out. The holidays always kind of throw a wrench into things, but we're watching this heading into January as potential next level.
Thanks, Anthony. Let's take a look at BUD, BUD. I notice on the chart, it's been in a solid downtrend and below the whole moving average for quite some time, but we've had a series of green candles and we just crossed above the whole. And I think what's interesting, even more than the chart, I mean, even in a downtrend, you can obviously get rebounds, and we haven't had a meaningful rebound. But let's take a quick look at the gamma picture. Interestingly, positive gamma, this very large negative gamma cluster at 50 without very much gamma below 50. So the way that I read this is that unless we breach 50 and start heading lower, I don't see a lot of interest in lower prices for BUD. And look at the historical gamma since the 23rd, man, it's been straight up. So that has my attention. We're at the dealer cluster zone. We have volume at these higher strikes. The upper dealer cluster zone is at 60. So to me, and not everybody buys a company like BUD, but if it's something that you're comfortable investing in or trading, there are targets that are higher, and gamma does seem to be signaling some level of support around this price.
Thanks for that, Sean. Next, let's take a look at Palantir. Palantir above the big 80 level. We mentioned this last week that there was potential for a move above 80, but that would likely bring in some selling pressure. We did get some selling pressure in Tuesday's trading session. So we're now back down to the 82 range. We've got some decent GEX here between 83 and 85, as well as decent volume coming in today. However, the largest game exposure is still at the 80 strike, and this is a little bit of a toss-up for me. I mean, usually I like to watch these upper strikes to see how GEX and volume grow. Usually that's like a double confirmation that probability is increasing for a move higher. We already had a pretty significant move over the last several weeks. Volatility has been crazy on both the upside and the downside. So this is one that I go into with caution, especially being above the largest GEX level, even if there is a further volume and GEX at higher strikes. This is just a very volatile and speculative play at this point. And we'll be continuing the conversation on these names and many others in our community Discord. It's free to check out, so I'll put a link down in the description below. Really encourage you guys to come on in and say hi when you get a chance. Also, if you're interested in accessing our gamma exposure dashboard and our option flow analytics, head on over to geeksoffinance.com. As a reminder, we are currently running a holiday special, $300 off our yearly portfolio manager tier subscription. We've got a few spots left, so take advantage of that. Promo code holidays at checkout. Thanks so much, everybody, for watching, and we'll see you guys in the next video.